Hi, everybody. I just have a great guest for you today. Her name is Lydia Harris, and I've known Lydia for a number of years, and she's just an amazing woman. She's a registered nurse, she's an entrepreneur, she's the author of a new book on how to express yourself as you grow a small business using digital publishing, public speaking, and smart marketing strategies that target your ideal clients. She's published 3 books to date on entrepreneurship and is currently working with healthcare professionals to help them profit from their expertise using her 5-step system for accelerated business development. Welcome, Lydia. How are you today?
I am so glad to be speaking with you, Dr. Gale. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Well, you have a really interesting background because you are a registered nurse. And I'm sure our listeners would be interested to know how you went from being an RN to being an entrepreneur and an author.
Well, actually, it's an amazing and wonderfully fun story, and I have so enjoyed the process. I just did the math and realized that just this year I'm celebrating my 40th year as a nurse.
Wow.
But
Well, congratulations, because we need people just like you.
oh my gosh, but you know what? That's where the entrepreneurism came in. Because, Gail, I tell you, after so many years of taking care of other people, you kind of get a little tired. The world has changed, especially the healthcare world, and I still love helping my patients, but I also know I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And so I want to do something that is more invigorating rather than kind of more troublesome. And so it's amazing. Actually, it's my son's fault, my youngest son, Ben. And if I can tell you a little bit about this, this would make it all come clear to you. When he was about 13, he told me that he wanted some Air Jordan gym shoes. And I laughed because I was never like the fashionista kind of lady. I mean, I was a single mom, a nurse, and I had a mother that lived with me who had dementia. So style was not in my priority for concerns. And so I'm
Not
like, look,
only that, you also had to just work with uniforms, so you had it pretty easy.
absolutely. And so I said, look, hey, Adidas is fine, Converse is fine. You want anything else? You need to get a job. And after I said it, I went to bed that night and I thought about it the next day, and I realized it was 2008. We were just starting an economic recession. And, kids today are not like they were when I was a kid. I mean, I babysat, I made money, I paid my own phone bill. Sometimes I'd clean yards, but these kids don't do that now. And so I realized when I told him to get a job, if he had gone to the local grocery store, he couldn't get a job because now adults that were not in their jobs were working and doing that kind of work. So it was just kind of amazing that I was dating an engineer at the time. And he said, well, let's make a job for him. He says, why don't you teach him how to start his own business? And I'm like, what? And so he was one of those engineers that always liked playing with gadgets and stuff. And he had just started with this new line of gadgetry called X10. And it was a way to do remote stuff, which now we have for everything. But, in 2008, this was kind of emerging technology. So he shared this with Ben, and he said, this is kind of cool stuff, isn't it? And yeah, Ben was jazzed. So I told him, I said, you know what? I said, what if you could make enough money to pay for a new pair of Jordans every month? They were like $200 at the time. I said, what would you do to do that? He says, oh my gosh, I'd do anything, Ma. I'd do anything. I'd love to do it. And so I said, wow, really? I said, what if you could play with these gadgets and help other people turn on their lights and stuff remotely? I said, this would be a great opportunity. He says, yeah. He says, that would be fun. I'd love it. So that was the beginning of how I started entrepreneurism, which was for his benefit.
Wow. You, your,
Yeah.
your business is called The Entrepreneur's Garden. And I
Yes.
understand the entrepreneur part of it, but what is with the garden?
Well, because as I watched him grow, I realized that entrepreneurism is about growing. You know, we had to learn things, we had to make adjustments and course correct as we were building his business. And I heard an interesting speaker talk about the difference between fern and bamboo. And he said, you know, fern grows really fast and it's got these big, bushy, pretty leaves. He said bamboo, on the other hand, takes years to grow, and you never even see it erupt through the soil. And most people might think that it's not going to grow, but what's happening is it's developing a root system underground. And once it starts to emerge through the soil, bamboo grows a large number of feet every day. You know, and bamboo trees can get very tall, like 80 feet tall. So I realized that, wow, I wasn't getting good results with what we were doing in our little business because I was thinking I had a fern mentality. I wanted something now. I wanted it to grow quick. And when I realized that bamboo would be a better investment because it's strong, it's got a good foundation, that was what I wanted business to be. And I said, okay, it's not only about growth, but what seeds you plant and how you take care of them and be patient. And so that's how the Entrepreneur's Garden was born.
Wow, that's a fabulous story. Well, you know, you also, though, I know have been very active in Toastmasters, and you were even a district governor or something. I know you had some big title. And, so,
Well,
yeah, so tell us a little bit about that and how it helped you.
well, it kind of came because of the story that my son and I um, kind of lived through as we were learning about entrepreneurism. It evolved into my first book. People were asking me, wow, how'd you teach your kid how to start a business? And so I said it so many times, and somebody said, you know, you should write a book about it. And then that way you don't have to repeat it all those times. And I thought about it. I said, okay. And right at that opportune moment, I like won some contest to get an editor to review some written works, and I didn't have any written works, so I went home that weekend and I wrote this book, and it became "How You Gonna Pay for Those Shoes" was the name of the book. So I was of the mentality that all you had to do was write a book and you'd become Stephen King or John Clancy or someone famous. And I learned it wasn't like that. You have to sell it. You have to speak about it. You have to market it. So I realized that I didn't know how to talk about selling a book. I could talk to patients about saving their lives, about their health care, but I didn't know how to talk about selling a book. So I went to these boot camps to learn how to speak to sell my book. And it just didn't feel right to me. And another friend said, you know what, why don't you go to Toastmasters? And I'm like, I'm not trying to sell toasters. And then I got there and oh my gosh, I found a second family. And the things that I have done that I continue to do in Toastmasters are a big part of my labor and love. It's become my global network. As I travel, I go to meetings. I mean, my friends will even say that I'm probably like an alcoholic with Toastmasters because when I travel, I go, I got to go to a meeting. I got to go to a meeting. And so, but it's just amazing because it allows me to go wherever I am in the world, 133 countries and all across America, to be able to stop in somewhere and meet people and just kind of make connections that I wouldn't make any other way. So it's been a wonderful part of my journey.
Well, now, what about your book? So let's talk about this book, and you've got 3 books now. How do you do? I mean, how has your book done with sales?
Well, actually, I think, in fact, I was trying to count it up. I think I've probably sold about 25 because it really wasn't my intention after I started understanding that I had kind of a purpose with this book because I came from Detroit. And it was at a time when my city was declining. I'm sure everybody knows all the bad things that have happened in the last 20 or 30 years. And I felt like it was a labor of love to help our young people to find a way to be sustainable. So I thought that it was for me to talk about it in schools and community groups and to give it to children and families. So it wasn't really something that I tried to sell so much. And I gave it away to many people. And it has opened so many doors for me from that gift. That's how I got invited to speak at schools, from our local Broward schools to even Broward College. I've done presentations and I teach from my book. So it's just become amazing. So now that I'm expanding and exploring digital publishing and seeing, oh my gosh, this is the next level. And it's not just about me, it's about other people like me, nurses and doctors and veterinarians and dentists and all of our healthcare workers that are struggling. So many nurses I know, and even in the hospital, I work part-time still just to kind of keep my pulse on my profession. The new nurses that are coming out now are so challenged. They have children, they have expenses. We live in a pretty expensive environment, I'm sure you know. And, so they're not just only working full time, but they're picking up extra shifts. They're working at other hospitals. Those that have advanced degrees are moonlighting and teaching on the weekends. And it's just always such a struggle. And, and they're tired and they're not enjoying it. It's not fulfilling to them. And so I'm hoping and believing that this will be something that I can offer to my fellow healthcare workers as a way to not only make money, but do what they love as they are making money, and so that it's not such a chore and it doesn't drain them so much emotionally to do so.
Well, you've talked about a lot of things here, Lydia. Number one, first of all, I think making your son work for the money for his shoes is brilliant, because I think that's something that kids need today. And you said, well, where are they going to work if they don't create their own jobs? Well, of course, I think that's what I did from the beginning when I had to, my first working was at 13 when I was selling Avon Cosmetics door to door, and I became the top salesperson.
Wow.
But I didn't want to babysit. I just thought babysitting was terrible. So, I do think that at least in this day and age, entrepreneurship is something that young people want to try. That wasn't so popular in my day, but it was certainly who I was, and I've always been. So I think that was good. Then you talked about giving your book away to so many people, and I think that's an important lesson for our listeners. Getting to the New York Times, there's a whole formula, by the way, on how to get on the New York Times bestsellers list, or even on Amazon's bestsellers, that we're not going to go into here. But really, to give your book away is it's your business card. That's what a book is. It's your business card. Mm-hmm. So you are very successful at doing that because you're giving it to people who really want to read it and then can help you get where you want to go. Mm-hmm. Now, the other part of it is you have another book in the works, and tell us about that.
Well, I'm working on the name of it, but it's really geared towards being able to express yourself, and that ties into the heart of the healthcare workers. I've learned over all that I've done that I've kind of created a 5-step process, and it allows me to use technology and digital publishing in order to reach more and teach more. And this is what I believe that many times we're missing, especially in my healthcare field, because we're not taught how to be speakers. We're not taught how to be salesy. We're not taught those kinds of things. So my 5-step process kind of consists of the first part, which is setting up a business model. And, setting up your strategy and your plan to create a business based upon digital publishing and transforming and leveraging your expertise. And the second part becomes creating products where you can teach based upon your expertise. And, we are all nurturers and teachers at heart, but just like I gave away my book, it's stuff that we give away because in the hospital environment and in insurance environments and all of those things that we're accustomed